Let's now discuss a diagnosis according to GH overview. In this diagnostic model, the symptoms and signs that are manifesting and the etiological factors that are creating the symptoms and signs are one and the same. This means that when we diagnose, say, dampness, there is an understanding both that the person will be manifesting specific symptoms and signs that are characteristic of the presence of dampness, and that the cause of the imbalance is that the person has been exposed to some form of qi that is intrinsically damp in its nature, or that some other etiological factor or internal imbalance has resulted in the presence of internal dampness. This stands in contrast to other etiological factors and imbalances. Anger, for example, which is one of the 7 internal or emotional causes of illness, is not a pattern of imbalance. Anger can be a cause of an imbalance, such as liver fire, but anger is not a pattern of imbalance with specific signs and symptoms. Liver fire, on the other hand, is a pattern of imbalance with specific symptoms and signs that are characteristic of extreme heat in the liver, but liver fire is not an etiological factor. Like most medical systems, Chinese medicine has a shamanistic past. Initially, it was believed that the disease arose because the body was invaded by evil spirits. These spirits could, for example, be the person's ancestors who were dissatisfied with the person's behavior, or ruthless spirits that were present in the local surroundings. Treatment at that time was based on either expelling the evil spirit from the body or trying to appease the disgruntled ancestor. These evil spirits that caused disease were termed qi or pathogenic qi. Pathogenic qi can be translated as evil or perverse. These spirits were a perverse or evil form of qi because they were qi that only had a negative and destructive effect on the body. This is in contrast to the body's own qi, which is exclusively benevolent, possessing only positive properties. Qi can also be translated as pathological qi, pathogenic qi, or simply pathogen, because it is a form of qi that can result in disease. Many of the places where pathogenic qi gathered was predominant were places that were dark, damp, or cold, places people instinctively feel are unpleasant. It was observed that people more often fell ill or developed disorders when they stayed in such places. Similar observations could also be made in other places where the climate was more extreme. Over time, the perception started to change. Evil spirits were seen as the cause of illness less, and instead, the climate itself was viewed as being the culprit. The relationship between an individual and the world surrounding them became more apparent. The perception changed increasingly to being that people who dwelt in cold, dark, damp places became ill because of these conditions, and not because they were where evil spirits resided. The dampness and the cold were the pathogenic qi. As analytical observers, Chinese scientists, scholars, and doctors saw that there was a relationship between people becoming ill and being exposed to extreme or prolonged climatic influences. They also became aware that the conditions of a person's own qi played an important role in their being susceptible to being affected by these climatic influences. It had already been observed that certain climatic conditions, such as cold, dampness, heat, and so on, had specific unique characteristics. These various forms of climatic qi were already known to affect the physical world in specific and thus predictable ways. For example, if there is an extreme or prolonged period of cold weather, water will freeze. Cold temperatures will also cause matter to contract, due to the yin nature of cold. Yang heat, on the other hand, has a very drying quality and desiccates things that are moist. It was observed that when people were exposed to prolonged or extreme climatic influences, their body reacted in a similar way to the world outside the body. For example, it was observed that when the body was exposed to cold weather, chi stagnated in the same way that water does when it freezes. The designation chi was not discarded though, because it was still an appropriate term. This idea is the same. The body is affected by a form of chi, and this chi has negative characteristics and a pathological influence on bodies on chi. Whereas before it was an evil spirit that had invaded the body, the new concept was that it was a form of negative chi that was disrupting the body's physiology. This is very typical for Chinese medicine and its way of thinking. An old theory is not rejected but is instead assimilated into the new understanding of how the body works. Each pathogenic chi has its own specific and unique chi dynamic. Chi dynamic is the directional movement that the chi has and the way in which it affects other forms of chi. This chi dynamic is a reflection of its relative yin or yang nature. For example, heat is a yang form of chi. Heat's yang quality can be seen in the fact that it's a form of chi that ascends. It desiccates and it creates overactivity in internal organs and the vital substances it is in contact with. It agitates. These chi dynamics are of great importance in relation to how the various pathogenic chi affect chi in the body and what reactions they create. It is through observation of these changes that a diagnosis is made. Thank you for listening.